Hi everyone, it's Gina K from Gina K Designs and your host of Stamp TV, and I'm back with another video for you featuring the new Hearts and Flowers StampTV Kit. Today I'm going to show you a fun inlay technique using the heart images from the kit. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to make this card project. First, you're going to need some stamps, and I'm going to be using the You Have My Heart stamp set, and I'm going to use the 3 heart images and then one of the greetings. I'm also going to be using the 3 biggest heart dies from the kit as well. Then I'm going to be using my Misty, and I also have a Versamark pad because I'm going to be doing some heat embossing. For embossing powder, I'm using the Gina K Designs Fine Detail Gold Powder, and then I'm going to use the Embossing Magic Pad with that. I'm also going to use some Connect glue. If you don't have Connect glue, you can use any glue or you can even use tape. I'll be using this tape runner by ThermoWeb. This is the little sticky dot runner that I love. I'll also be using some scissors, and then for cardstock, I'm going to be using some of the Gina K Designs Red Velvet, some black Onyx, and then I have a heavy base weight white card base. I also have a little strip of layering weight white for this card. So I'm going to start by using my Big Shot. I'm going to do a little bit of die cutting first because we're going to create a window panel in that red velvet cardstock. So I'm going to start by lining up these dies. I have these 3 dies here, and I'm going to start by lining them up how I want them on my card. I like to use elements of 3. I think that really balances out the card well, rather than using 2 or 4. Sometimes it feels like there isn't room for 3, but you can make it work. 3 always looks a little bit better than 2 or 4. So that's the layout I'm going to go with to create these windows for my card. I'm going to gently put this plate down, trying not to move anything. You can tack those down with some painter's tape or washi tape, or when you get the new purple tape from ThermoWeb, that's a really great tape to use for this too. Okay, so I'm going to keep the open part, and I'm going to keep these hearts for another project on another day. They can still be used later. I'm going to get this out of the way, and now it is time to do some stamping. So I'm going to grab my Misty, and I'm going to get this strip of white cardstock, and I'm going to get the 3 stamps, the 3 heart stamps out of the package and use them here on this strip. So I used a little embossing magic there to get rid of static and oil. And then I want one of these. I'm going to stamp one of these, one of this heart, and this heart. You want to make sure you have room to cut around the outside of these hearts. Not with the dies, you want to cut a little bigger than that because they are going to sit inside the openings that you created in that red velvet panel. All right, so now I'm going to ink up these stamps using some Versamark ink. A lot of people ask me how I clean Versamark off of my stamps. And the best way to do that is to just take them to your kitchen sink with a little bit of dish detergent and a toothbrush and just scrub them, and that Versamark will come right off. All right, so I'm going to press down real well on these, make sure I have good contact. And then those are ready for some embossing powder. So I have a piece of scrap paper that I folded in half here, and I'm going to use some of the Fine Detail Gold, and I'm going to sprinkle that all over these hearts. I love fine detail powder for this kind of thing because these little hearts have so much detail in them. And although the embossing powder is going to heat up beautifully and it's going to be very shiny, it's not going to swell up too much. And that's nice because then you won't lose the detail in those beautiful filigree looking hearts. Okay, so now I'm going to heat these hearts up using my embossing tool. And I always like to heat it up a little bit beforehand. This way I can make sure that It's nice and hot and it won't warp my paper as much. And here we go. You can see how quickly that's heating now. These look so pretty in gold. I haven't tried this card yet in silver. I bet it would look beautiful. Something about these hearts done in metallic embossing powders. So pretty. So let me turn that for you so you can see the shine. Isn't that nice? All right, I'm going to put these aside for a minute, and then I'm going to grab my Misty again. Now I want to add a greeting to this red velvet panel. So I'm going to put that down and get a little embossing magic on there. And the greeting I think I'm going to pick for this one is, I love everything about you. I have a different greeting on my other sample, which I'll show you. So I'm going to pop that into place, make sure that looks straight, and it does, and then pick that up with my Misty. Then I'm going to add some more of that Versamark. And I like to do the embossing in stages. Sometimes it's a little tricky if you've got lots of different areas on a piece of cardstock that you want to emboss. You can take it in stages. You don't have to do the whole thing all at once. This way you don't risk damaging any of the parts that are wet or have embossing powder on them. Okay, so now I'm going to put some embossing powder onto that greeting. All right, put that back in the jar. I'm always afraid to leave the embossing powder out where I have my heat tool for fear I'll heat the whole jar of embossing powder. Okay, so let's emboss that greeting. And again, the fine detail powder is great for words because it doesn't swell them up too much and you can read them very clearly. So now I want to add a chain, and there's a neat little chain image in this kit, in this stamp set, and that's this image up at the top here. I'm going to grab that, and once again I'm going to use the Embossing Magic Pad, and I'm going to add that chain. So that is going to go right there. You want to make sure it's as straight as possible. I'm going to move the corner out. That looks pretty good. Okay. No, I still think that might be a little crooked. So another thing that you can do is you can, when using the Misty, you can take the point of that heart and you can put that point right on a line. And then hold everything down. And then you can make sure that the chain continues straight on that line all the way up that same line. And that helps you get things a little bit straighter. Okay. All right, now I'm going to emboss this chain, or Versamark this chain. Then I'm going to move the chain. Again, do the same thing, just line up the point of that heart where I want it. Make sure that that looks straight. There we go. Okay. Do the same thing again. A little bit of Versamark. And stamp that. Now I'm going to stop there and I'm going to heat emboss those two. Because I have one more that I want to do, the little space in between the two hearts, but I don't want this to dry too much. And I want these two to be done before I move on. All right, let's see if I can be tricky and move this out of the way and not emboss my jar of embossing powder. Looks good. And if you ever do get a little bit of embossing powder somewhere you don't want it, and you've already cooked it, you can always use the mono eraser, the sand eraser, to just erase the embossing powder right off of your card project. I try to catch them all, but it's not always easy. Alright, here's that chain. There we go. So now I have those 2 embossed chains, and now I just need to do that last one. So I'm going to line that one up. Where I want it. And this, let's see, we'll just put that right in between there. There we go. That looks good. I'll ink that up. And then stamp. Once again, I'll add that embossing powder in that little center, like that. And then we'll be done with the embossing. Well, not really. We still have, well, we have the hearts done, so there, that's in between them. So that's going to look like that's all one piece. All right, let me get the embossing powder out of the way, and then we will start to assemble this card. So I have this piece here, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to, just using scissors, I'm going to cut these out. I don't want to get too close to the edge, but I also want to make sure that it's close enough that it's not going to extend into the image next to it or above it. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm cutting these out so that they can slip behind here, and I don't want it to get up into this heart. So you can, but I need enough so that I can either glue or tape it down from behind. Okay, looking good. There's the second one and this last one. Now I suppose I could have cut these out exactly and just set them in there, but I really didn't want it to look like a puzzle piece. I wanted to look like this whole panel was completely behind this. Okay, so now I'm going to use some of the Connect glue, and I am going to just put a little thin line around the perimeter here. Glue is fun to work with. I haven't worked with glue very much, and I've been needing it, so it's really nice to have a good quality glue that's quick and easy and can do different size lines. So you see the way I picked that up. I picked it up with the gluey background, but with glue it's very slick and it's easy to kind of slide it around until it's perfectly in the center. So that's what I did. All right. Now I'm going to add the next one. Right around the perimeter. And this is the bigger heart. So I'm going to pick that up lightly. And then I'm just going to fiddle around with it until that one looks like it's right in the center. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay. And then I have one more to do, so I'm just kind of wiping this off my work area. Okay. And then we're going to pick that one up. looks pretty good. Okay. So now the next step is to get some tape on here, on the back. I'm going to tape right over those hearts so everything gets held into place. And I'm going to attach this whole thing onto this black onyx panel. So excuse my head if it gets in the way. I want to make sure this is straight. You can see how pretty that is. And now this whole panel is going to go onto a white card base. And there we go. So there is my finished card project. Let me get in a little closer for you so that you can see the way it looks. Very Victorian looking. And that one I did with I Love Everything About You. And this one, I made the same card with You Are Loved. So either one of those cards would be a great one to send to a friend, a relative, a spouse, a child. Any of those greetings work for anybody on your Valentine's Day list. I hope you've enjoyed today's Stamp TV video. Stay tuned to Stamp TV for more Hearts and Flowers projects, and thanks so much for watching.